Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from the Frontier. Thank you for stopping by. I'm always grateful. Let me start with some macro thoughts. I actually like the picture in this New Yorker story, which was asking China's economic slowdown. How bad is it? And it's pretty bad, because I think we're going to see I think currently China's at around 3.5% GDP growth in reality. Lagarde warns of spillover risks from recent volatility. What has been demonstrated in the last few weeks is how much Asia is at the core of the global economy and how much disruption in one market in Asia can actually spill over to the rest of the world. She was at Mindspeak and a fabulous guest. That link is on Rich Wrap-Ups. Holger, only thing up today is fear. This is from yesterday. Volatility index jumped back again above 30. Home thoughts. Let me read you just parts of a poem written by Pablo Neruda. A dog has died. My dog has died. I buried him in the garden next to a rusted old machine. No, my dog used to gaze at me, paying me the attention I need, the attention required, to make a vain person like me understand that being a dog, he was wasting time. Listen to this. But with those eyes so much purer than mine, he'd keep on gazing at me, with a look that reserved for me alone all his sweet and shaggy life, always near me, never troubling me, and asking nothing. There are no goodbyes for my dog who has died, and we don't now and never did lie to each other. So now he's gone and I buried him, and that's all there is to it. One of our puppies died, I'm afraid, a couple of nights ago. It was extremely sad, and ironically it was Hannah, who I was worried about consoling, who had to console her mother. And one of those, the puppy that died, is in this photograph of Hannah that I took, I think, over the weekend. The two of them, very human personalities. We were all quite distraught because there were 4 boys and it was a house of girls. And I think everybody had their own sort of relationship with these dogs. We still do, but it's very sad. And Sahara, of course, the mother who's been with us for eternity, was very sad. World Wildlife Day, Chinese photographers' mission to raise awareness on poaching. I like the photograph, as I like this photograph, the view from the deck of the Nordic Odyssey, with the tugboat the Vengari in the foreground as the ship sailed from Murmansk in Russia to Hunghua in China in July. Because the extent and thickness of ice during the Arctic summer has diminished in recent years, the Northeast Passage, for centuries an obsession of explorers, could soon become an everyday part of merchant shipping. By the middle of this century, it may be possible to traverse the North Pole in a canoe. I'm a great admirer of a fellow called Paul Ekman, who's written a book about reading faces, and tweeted a link yesterday, Become Versed in Reading Faces. It's a good starting point. It's a little short, but might tickle your interest. Gautam Trivedi tweeted Milky Way over the Himalayas. Very beautiful it was. Took me back to Moby Dick. All mortal greatness is but disease. And then to an article in the New York Books, professional surfer Anthony Walsh. And this photograph is him surfing in Tahiti in April 2009. But listen to this. It's a story about surfing. Just after his 60th birthday, Finnegan caught a pair of waves in Hawaii that were as perfectly hollow and long-lasting as anything he had ridden for 30 years. Getting barreled is the term surfers use for the experience of being physically inside of a wave, moving along the face as the lip cascades down from above. It is an act so magical and strange that it almost seems as though no mortal should be able to do it. Being adjacent to that much beauty, more than adjacent, immersed and pierced by it, was the point, he writes. The physical risks were footnotes. Political reflections. El Comercio tweeted, "Crisis en la frontera," the frontier. And this is the border of Colombia and Venezuela. The photograph caught my attention. Of course, what's happening is Venezuela sells very cheap goods which are being swept up by Colombian buyers, in part. Nicolas Maduro tweeted a photograph of his meeting with Xi Jinping in China. According to some reports I've seen, China have cut a check for $5 billion, but I'm not sure whether that's sufficient to address the problem. China military parade sets spin machine into overdrive, leads Bloomberg. China's image makers are taking unprecedented measures to make sure a volatile stock market and a deadly blast in Tianjin don't distract from President Xi Jinping's message of national unity surrounding a military parade on Thursday. Xi's government finds itself beset with challenges as the parade nears, including faltering economic growth, questions about safety regulation after the Tianjin blast that killed at least 158 people, and concerns about the outlook for the stock market, whose plunge wiped out $5 trillion in global stock market value. That trouble compares to Beijing's last major international event, the 2008 Summer Olympics, when China was riding high as Western economies reeled from the international financial crisis. Xi will be very concerned that nothing goes wrong, as this is a government that really wants to be seen to be given face internationally and is trying to shore up its image to the Chinese population after a year of disaster, said Professor Anne-Marie Brady. The event is marking the 70th anniversary of Japan's World War II defeat, gives Xi a global platform to present his Chinese dream. Will feature 12,000 troops, modern weapons system, in a display of military muscle. Concern that Xi's broader message risks being overshadowed helps explain the extent of measures unveiled to ensure the parade's success. I concluded by saying things don't look as serene and as impregnable as they did before. China's Xinhua News. China stops regular entertainment on TV to make way for V-Day and appropriate content. I tweeted this photograph that you have up there. China's Xi also called indicted Sudanese leader Bashir an old friend as he met him in Beijing. There's an interesting article, and there's this final sentence in it saying the defining consumer product of our age is the smartphone. Do read that article on Bloomberg View, very interesting. Al Jazeera News, this is the closest ISIL has ever been to the heart of Damascus. And then John De Vries, ISIS carry out the most revolting torture yet, and the world's media ignores it. Nothing is said. Nothing is reported. And of course, it's this photograph that you're going to see now. Diderot remarked that humanity would never be free until the last king was strangled with the entrails of the last priest. It might be said that the Arab world will never be free until the last Arab king is strangled with the entrails of the last jihadi. As Robert Dreyfus has pointed out, the oil monarchies are ruled by royal kleptocracies whose legitimacy is nil. Most Arabs know that the monarchies were established by imperialists building fences around oil wells. The kleptocracies have a symbiotic relationship with the imperialists. They loot the country and share the stolen wealth with the imperialists who provide military support. Joyce Karam tweeted that the Saudi king is expected to arrive in DC on Thursday, meet Obama on Friday and depart on Saturday. President Obama tweeted a photograph of himself. The tweet says the National Park Service, 99 years and 84 million acres. Congrats to all who work to protect those treasures. And I tweeted because of the photograph. Dear POTUS, you should have had Kanye West's Touch the Sky on 11. I like this photograph from Sam Smith, sunset over Rotterdam Port. Eric Scott Hunsader, look at this, option quote growth from 2003, when there were 50 million quotes, to 18 billion in a day today. Let's move to the currency markets. The euro 112.57, dollar index 95.60, Japanese yen 120.03, Swissy 0.9610, the pound 152.76, the Aussie 0.7034, India rupee 66.245, South Korean won 11.7609, Rial 369.39, Egyptian pound 782, and the rand 13.40.28. When I looked last, dollar index put up a 3-month chart. I still think it's going higher, but we're in a very volatile, fluid environment. Pullbacks can go deeper, but I think that it is going higher. Euro dollar is a little bit like the new gold, the safe haven currency of choice. Let me put up a 1-month chart, and you can see that it really spiked high. Jamie McGeever, Canada slips back into recession. 2 consecutive quarters of falling GDP. It's the 4th time since the early 1980s. Put up a 6-month chart of dollar Canada, and as you know, I've been looking for 140 as my price objective. Gold, we're now trading at 11.41.72. I'm not bullish about gold. Typically in these sorts of environments, it should be much, much higher. Oil's bungee cord snapped back Tuesday, extending the market's wildest swings in 7 months. After surging 27% in 3 days, prices tumbled almost 8% Tuesday. At the heart of the reversal were doubts that OPEC and other oil exporters will be able to coordinate a production cut. Chicago Board of Options Exchange Crude Oil Volatility Index climbed to the highest level since March 17. The gauge of hedging costs on the US Oil Fund, the biggest exchange-traded fund, tracking WTI, advanced 40% in August, the most this year. All of Asia appears to be falling apart, not just China, and that's the demand center of the world. We're going to return to the recent lows, and I agree with that completely. Holger, broken markets, Brent oil, 10-day volatility jumps to higher since 2009. And then let me also put up a 1-month crude oil chart when I checked last, 44.72. Emerging markets, the good times are over, said Janquil Santos, chief economist of Bessie Brazil. Brazil is in a difficult situation and needs to correct the excesses of the past. Brazil's economy bled almost 900,000 jobs over the last year. That's unheard of, even in the aftermath of the 2008 Lehman Brothers crisis. I like this photograph that was attached to the article of a consumer watching a shop window of a female shoe store located in the Morumbi shopping mall in Sao Paulo, Brazil. Holga, Brazil real weakens to fresh cycle low, but we've already spoken about that. We said we're looking for 4. The Club of Mozambique tweets thousands of young women dance for the Swazi king, and some, unfortunately, lost their lives on the way to this ceremony. According to Africa Confidential, President Nkurunziza thinks a coalition will strengthen him, but his suspicion of Rwanda grows as fears of civil war increase. Instability is accelerating in the wake of Pierre Nkurunziza's election to a 3rd term as president, and is swearing in on August 20. 2 senior officers have been assassinated. Grenade attacks and other violence have claimed 100 lives, and the number of refugees, mainly Tutsi, in neighbouring countries has reached over 200,000. Over 1,000 people have been detained. I don't think he's going to be able to keep a lead on it. China's market asset price correction is hitting African economies hard. This is Adesina, the new MD of the African Development Bank, and I wrote about this on the 31st of August when I said China's volatility is causing influenza across Africa. I said then this heightened and hyper international volatility has infected African equity and currency markets. In particular, 30% of our exports from Africa go to China. Compare that to the US, where just 1% of their exports go to China. It is this new interconnectedness which is spreading an influenza across sub-Saharan markets. Commodity markets have crashed, notwithstanding a more than 10% rally in oil at the end of the week. What is clear now is that sub-Saharan Africa is going to undershoot even the most pessimistic GDP forecasts. The unwinding of the supercycle in commodities changes everything in Africa. Bloomberg View article, just a sentence worth reading in full: Africa drop in Chinese demand would be nothing short of a tragedy. South Africa's President Zuma escaped an impeachment bid over al-Bashir. The choice was between the rule of law and the rule of big men, where might is right, said the DA parliamentary leader Moby Maimane. South African President Zuma Tuesday escaped a bid in Parliament to impeach him over the government's refusal to arrest Bashir on genocide charges brought by the International Criminal Court. Zuma was never going to send Bashir to the ICC. The African blowback would have been just too fierce. South African oil share tumbled 2.92% yesterday, and it's back to being down 2.52% year to date. Dollar rand, I'll put up a 1-month chart, I think we're still headed lower. Egyptian pound, let me put up a 3-month chart. Egyptian EGX30 is down 19.3% year to date, but it's up 8.25% since the 24th of August. The Economist is saying as much as $12.5 billion in oil money has been diverted away from the Nigerian government. Uber says they're linking with Kia to expand 5-fold in Lagos. Uber Technologies negotiating cheaper deals for new vehicles with Kia Motors to boost its number of drivers 5-fold in the city of Lagos, Africa's biggest, to 3,000 by the end of next year. Interesting model that they're deploying there. Uber's growth in Lagos can match the speed of take-up in South Africa, according to Litz. The company's drivers in Africa's most industrialized economy have taken passengers on more than 2 million journeys this year, compared with about 1 million in 2014. Lagos is 3 times the size of Greater Johannesburg. It's a huge opportunity here. The Nigerian oil share has rallied 7.42% since the 26th of August, but remains down 12.788% year to date. I think part of that recent rally has been because of the bounce in oil, which I expect to reverse. Ghana Stock Exchange Composite Index is down 4.82% year to date. In Africa, a son who migrates is the family's dream come true. They think it's the end of their problems, said Saab. It takes courage and ambition to return, he says. Across sub-Saharan Africa, remittances sent home climbed to an estimated $33 billion last year, according to the World Bank. The EAC Secretary General, Richard Sesibera, says we shall not industrialize unless we free the labour market around the region. And he also said sugar from Uganda's East African sugar has the right to move across East Africa. Congo 8 Muslim preachers from Tanzania who were kidnapped last month in the eastern DRC have escaped. The preachers seized in the restive province of North Kivu in early August took the chance to flee during fighting between the Congolese army and the ethnic Hutu militia, the FDLR. The kidnappers were clearly FDLR members, he added, because as soon as the fighting broke out, they fled. I like this view, which was published in that article, over Lake Kivu in Goma, the capital of North Kivu province. Interesting article in The Economist, Commodities in Africa, How Natural Resources Breed Violence. Had mineral prices remained at their levels from 1997, the paper calculates, over the subsequent 13 years, the average African country would have seen 25% fewer violent events. Higher prices were responsible for 65% of the outbreaks that took place in South Africa. Even those results may be an underestimate, since proceeds from mines in one area may have been used to fund conflicts in others. Let's come down to Kenya. We have demanded major changes in the management. I've had a series of meetings with the board to demand the changes. We have made it clear that the restructuring must happen. It is important not to be emotional and ask them to leave now, but first we must know the cause of the loss. This is the Cabinet Secretary for Finance. The board of Kenyaris and the top management will be sent home, is what the newspaper is saying, in a drastic plan to return the national airline on the path to profits. Also on the chopping board is the long-running agreement with Dutch airline KLM, which is set for a review. Then another report, government is considering a 60 billion shilling bailout for KQ. In order to ensure that the company keeps afloat, government has provided short-term support by way of a shareholder loan of 4.2 billion. The amount is intended to help the airline meet its financial obligations. Additionally, the government has provided support to KQ to access a 20 billion shilling bridging facility from Afrexim Bank for working capital. Government owns 29.8% of the ordinary shares, KLM owns 26.73%, and the IFC owns 9%. Road Titch said KLM and IFC were waiting for the restructuring plan from KQ management before deciding whether to participate in the bailout or not. For those shareholders, it's wait and see, but for us, we had to come up with a plan on an interim basis to keep the airline in business. If you haven't seen my interview with Moby straight after, he's the CEO of KQ, straight after the results release, take a look. The link for Kenya's share price is there. It's been surprisingly resilient of late. Not so surprisingly, I take you back to something I wrote on the 3rd of August, and I said, in my opinion, it's about capital. KQ needs partners and shareholders with much deeper pockets. And I was referencing KLM. So that is the reality. A few months ago, I called for a serious discussion with the Gulf carriers. They have deep pockets. It's a no-brainer discussion. Kenya shilling, 104.15 last. Nairobi all-share, 3-session winning streak, though it slowed down yesterday. The all-share was only up 0.22%, but we're up 4.079% over 3 sessions. We're down 12.137% year-to-date. NSE 20 is down 18.766% year-to-date, with 72.38 points above its 2015 low from the 27th of August. Africa Oil is pleased to announce that it closed the $50 million non-brokered private placement previously announced on August the 18th. This is their CEO, Keith Hill. Africa Oil, Tullow Oil are partners in exploration, and this is an investment by the IFC into that business. Oil prices remain too low, I think, for a lot of East African oil extraction. KFC steps up competition with 8th store in Nairobi, so that's a lot of growth coming out of that. As I said, the all-share maintained its 3-day rally yesterday. The NSE 20, however, slipped back 23.32 points. Safaricom has rebounded with purpose, closed up 1.388% yesterday. Ichumi, which is up 21.42% over the last 11 trading sessions, closed unchanged. Standard Group traded for the first time since releasing profits warning, and its half-year results closed limit down at 34.50. Jubilee, we already spoke about their results. That's up 20% year-to-date. It's not difficult to see why when you look at those results. Britam has rebounded 11.8% since releasing its half-year results. Equity Group, very strong, up 2.47%, up 13.69% since the 27th of August. EABL unchanged. Bamburi, of course, they released strong results, up 15.1% year-to-date compared to a market that's down. Kengen also pretty strong yesterday, up another over 3%. Once again, thank you for stopping by. I hope it's of interest and of use.